Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia Department of Transportation's I-495 Express Lanes Northern Extension Location and Design Public Hearing. My name is Michelle Holland. I'm with VDOT's Northern Virginia Mega Projects Program, and I will be acting as your host at this evening's hearing. Next slide. I'm going to go through what will take place at tonight's hearing. Next slide, please. Thank you. Tonight's public hearing includes a formal presentation of the environmental assessment findings and the draft design plans for the 495 project. Following the presentation, we will have our public comment session. We will begin with the pre-registered speakers, followed by others who wish to provide comments tonight. We are asking speakers to limit their comments to 3 minutes if speaking as an individual and 5 minutes if you are speaking for a group. If time allows, following all public comments, we will open it up to questions and answers. We will go over specific instructions once we get through our presentation and we start our comment period. But if you have pre-registered to speak, you will be called upon first to provide your comments. Tonight's hearing is being streamed live and recorded on VDOT's live YouTube channel. The recording of tonight's hearing will be shared after the meeting on our project website, 495northernextension.org. Want to make sure that everyone knows that we are asking all attendees to be muted, to mute your lines throughout the duration of the meeting. This is to minimize background noise and ensure that all participants can hear. If you are having any technical difficulties, we would ask that you please call 703-691-6715. Again, that number 703-691-6715 for any technical difficulties. Before we get started this evening with our presentation, there are some introductions that I'd like to make. I'd like to introduce and thank Delegate Murphy for joining us this evening. Supervisor Faust, thank you for joining us. I'd like to introduce some officials from our VDOT team that have joined us tonight. Rob Carey, who is here. Rob is our Deputy Commissioner for VDOT. Helen Cuervo is VDOT's Northern Virginia District Administrator. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Susan Shaw is VDOT's Mega Projects Director in Northern Virginia. And Abby Lerner, who is our Project Manager for the 495 project. I also would like to welcome Mary Hines, our Commonwealth Transportation Board member in Northern Virginia. Thank you for joining us this evening. We also have a representative from Supervisor Dahlia Palchik's office with us this evening. And if I've missed any elected officials or other officials that would like to introduce themselves, if you would please do so at this time. Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Susan Shaw to kick off our hearing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. In this presentation, we will provide an overview of 495 Next, a summary of findings from the project's environmental assessment, and an update on the project's proposed design and changes to the limited access line along I-495. We will also cover coordination with local and regional stakeholders, describe a transit study being conducted for the corridor, discuss next steps, and let you know how you can provide comments on the project. The 495 Next project, as you can see from this project overview on slide 4, involves extending the 495 express lanes to the north by about 3 miles from the current terminus near the Dulles Toll Road to the George Washington Memorial Parkway in the vicinity of the American Legion Bridge. The project includes replacing existing bridges at Live Oak Drive, Georgetown Pike, Old Dominion Drive, and I-495 North over the Dulles Toll Road. It includes widening the I-495 bridge over Scotts Run and improving the George Washington Memorial Parkway bridges over 495. The project also includes building new bike and pedestrian paths along I-495 and on the new overpasses. Existing noise walls along the corridor will be replaced and extended, and new noise walls will be built if needed. In addition, stormwater management facilities will be provided to address water runoff from the project. The goals of the project are to reduce congestion on I-495 and nearby roadways, to provide additional travel choices on I-495, to improve travel reliability, and also to enhance safety in the project corridor. New express lanes access ramps, represented by the orange arrows, will be provided at two interchanges. On the left, at the Dulles Toll Road interchange, there will be ramps from the Dulles Toll Road and Airport Access Road, or Route 267, to the northbound 495 express lanes, and from the southbound 495 express lanes to the Dulles Connector Road. On the right-hand side of the slide, you see the GW Memorial Parkway interchange. There will be ramps from the northbound 495 express lanes to the parkway going towards DC, and from the westbound parkway to the southbound 495 express lanes. VDOT is coordinating with the state of Maryland on proposed roadway improvements on the American Legion Bridge. Maryland is currently completing a study to add lanes and implement a connected managed lanes network on the Capitol Beltway from the American Legion Bridge up to River Road, which is shown in the dashed line. Maryland is conducting its own project evaluating the addition of managed lanes on both I-495 and on I-270. On the next slide, we can see project benefits. The 495 project will improve travel on I-495 and along other roadways near the project corridor. The map shown here is a screen capture from an evening rush hour in May 2018 and is typical of roadway conditions during peak periods on what has been identified as the most congested segment of the interstate in the Washington area region. The extended express lanes will help move more people through the I-495 corridor by adding new capacity and providing new travel choices with express lanes for carpools, buses, and toll-paying drivers. Additionally, drivers on I-495 will experience faster and more reliable travel times during peak periods. Improved travel on I-495 will benefit local roads as well by reducing cut-through traffic. The project will enhance safety both on and off I-495 with lower travel volumes on local roads and less traffic weaving on I-495 to access the GW Memorial Parkway. And now I'd like to turn it over to Abby Lerner, our project manager, who's going to go through some slides on our environmental process as well as our traffic analysis. Abby?
Thank you, Susan. VDOT is following the federally required process for evaluating environmental impacts for the project. The National Environmental Policy Act, sometimes called NEPA, requires that we consider the potential environmental consequences of the project, document the environmental analysis, and make the information available to the public for comment. The purpose of our outreach and public hearing process is to provide information and receive comments and input on the proposed project and the findings of our environmental assessment. Information related to our environmental assessment has been available on our project website, 495northernextension.org, since February 26, 2020.
Are you on?
You're trying to get on.
You just go on
Abby, please unmute yourself. I went ahead and muted everyone due to the background.
VDOT is following the federally required process for evaluating environmental impacts for the project. Did I, okay. Do I need to do this slide again? Did that come through?
We hear you well. There was
No,
about
we
4
heard
seconds.
we heard this slide. It's when you move to the next one about the technical studies.
Oh, okay. Okay. BDOT conducted an environmental assessment, referred to as an EA, to identify potential impact that the proposed 495 Next project would have on environmental resources. We studied natural environments such as streams and habitat, and the human environment such as air quality and noise. Shown here are the technical studies that were completed to support the EA. In April of 2018, the project design team established a large study area, shown by the dashed outline on the map that you see here. The study area is generally 500 feet on either side of the Beltway and along intersecting roadways and the adjacent intersections. We then identified and gathered data about environmental resources within the study area. As the project design was developed, the anticipated limits of disturbance, or LOD, which is a smaller area within the study area, was established. Potential project impacts to resources within the LOD were then quantified. The LOD represents the largest likely project footprint, and impacts within the LOD are reported in the environmental assessment and are shown in our design boards and the environmental document, which are available on the project website. As design progresses, the goal will be to minimize the project footprint further within the LOD. Next slide. The potential impacts shown here are detailed in the project's environmental assessment and technical reports, which are available on the project website. The 495 Next project is expected to need partial land acquisitions from 89 properties. No residential or business relocations are expected to be needed. There are several community facilities along the corridor, and potential impacts are summarized in the EA. The George Washington Memorial Parkway, owned by the National Park Service, was identified as the only property within the LOD, the only historic property within the LOD. The parkway is known for its landscape architecture and commemoration of George Washington, and consists of parks and trails totaling 7,600 acres. BDOT has been working with the National Park Service to minimize impact for the parkway. Rendering of various options to mitigate impacts are shown in the George Washington Memorial Parkway visualization booklet, which is available on our website. BDOT has also coordinated with the Fairfax County Park Authority on how best to minimize impact to its properties, the Scotts Run Nature Preserve, a 336-acre preserve located in McLean, north of Georgetown Pike and west of the I-495 corridor. Scotts Run Preserve is a publicly accessible recreational area. The 495 project would have minimal impacts on these two park properties, and VDOT has identified mitigation strategies for these impacts. A preliminary noise study was completed based on the project draft design plans. Study results are available on the project website and will be discussed later in the presentation. The air quality analysis indicated that the 495 project would not adversely impact air quality. The project would meet all applicable federal and state regulatory requirements, as well as air quality guidance under the Federal National Environmental Protection Act. The project would not cause or contribute to a new violation of a national ambient air quality standards established by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Natural resources such as wetlands, streams, and wildlife habitat are located within the LOD and may be impacted. During the project's preliminary design process, the project's footprint has been refined and reduced to minimize impacts. As the project's design continues to be refined, the team will work to further reduce the project footprints and impacts. As part of the environmental assessment, a traffic analysis was conducted. The team studied the operational and safety impacts of the proposed 495 project, looking at the project footprint shown in yellow, the surrounding highway network shown in green. Okay, yeah, please stay on this slide. Shown in green, and local roads shown in blue. The traffic analysis looked at potential impacts to 30 nearby intersections. Our traffic engineers studied the project's impact on these roadways using the required regional traffic forecasting model that contains current traffic volumes, as well as traffic projections that take into account the region's future land use plans, and transportation improvements and changes. It's important to note that the Maryland's proposed project of the 2 new managed lanes on each direction on I-495 in Maryland is included in this regional traffic model. VDOT's traffic analysis focused on 2 time horizons, year 2025, or just after the planned opening of the 495 next express lanes, and the future design year of 2045. The interim year of 2025 was analyzed for 2 scenarios, one prior to and one following completion of the Maryland's managed lanes project. The 2045 design year was analyzed, assuming that the Maryland project improvements would be in place. For each horizon year, 2025 and 2045, the project team looked at build versus no build scenarios. The build scenario would be building the proposed 495 next project to compare travel times, traffic delay, person throughput, and impacts on secondary streets. VDOT's traffic analysis shows that the 495 next project will move more people compared to existing conditions and compared to future conditions without the project. For the design year of 2045, the project is anticipated to move 7,600 more people per hour throughout the project study area in the northbound and southbound directions as compared to the 2045 no-build scenario. Similarly, in the interim year of 2025, the project would move 5,400 more people per hour than the no-build with Maryland's managed lanes project in place, and 2,500 more people per hour prior to Maryland's project being implemented. The traffic analysis shows the Express Lane 495 Northern Extension project will reduce cut-through traffic on local roads in all 3 scenarios that were analyzed. These 3 scenarios are 2025 with Maryland managed lanes, 2025 prior to Maryland managed lanes, and 2045 design year. In 2019, heavy congestion on I-495 resulted in travelers diverting onto parallel roads and local streets in the northbound and southbound directions. By increasing the person carry capacity of I-495 and by providing a reliable travel option using the I-495 express lanes, drivers will have less incentive to use local cut-through routes. Looking at 2045 and both 2025 scenarios, building the project will improve level of service and local street intersections in the study area. Reductions in travel demand will result in delay reductions on Georgetown Pike. These improvements on local roads apply to both the 2025 build scenarios with Maryland's managed lanes in place and prior to the completion of the Maryland project. For example, the number of intersections operated at level service A through D, shown in the first row of the table, increases in the build scenario compared with the not building the project for all three scenarios. Prior to the Maryland project being in place, 53% of the intersections operate at level service A through D in the no build, compared to 57% of the intersections in the build scenario. As seen in the center column, once the Maryland Express lanes are in place, 60% of the intersections operate at level service D or better. Conversely, the number of intersections that operate at level service F decreases in the no build condition decreases in the build condition compared to the no build for all three scenarios. As we look at the bottom portion of the table, the analysis results show that traffic demand on local streets intersecting with Georgetown Pike decreases across all three scenarios. In 2025, with Maryland's project in place, the traffic demand at Georgetown Pike intersections would reduce by 14% in the build scenario compared with the no build. And prior to Maryland's project being built, the traffic reduction would be 9% in the build scenario. As a result of the reduction in traffic demand on local streets associated with the 495 Next project, the build scenario shows notable improvements in the delay experienced at Georgetown Pike intersections. Looking at the bottom row of the table, the reductions in delay ranges between 40 and 49% when comparing the build versus the no build for all three scenarios.
Hey, Abby, this is Rob Carey. Could you go back that slide? I know we have a lot of people on here that are not engineers, and I just simply wanted to mention that this level of service A through D and level of service E and level of service F is really, it's a measure of how much delay there is to get through an intersection, how long you have to wait to get through. And A is good, F is bad, and I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I know everybody on here is clearly not an engineer, and wanted to explain that a little bit, that's how we measure those intersections function, is the delay that people experience in getting through them. Thank you.
Thank you. The graphics on this slide help to further support the expected reduction of traffic using local streets to bypass congestion on I-495 as a result of the I-495 Next project. As shown in the graphic on the left, our traffic studies indicate that even without construction of the Maryland project, there would be significant reductions in traffic volumes on local roads, including Balls Hill Road, Georgetown Pike, and Swings Mill Road during the peak afternoon travel hour as a result of the 495 Next project. The graphic on the right shows that with completion of the Maryland project, which includes widening of the American Legion Bridge, more traffic would remain on I-495 rather than using local streets. For example, cut-through traffic on roads west of the Beltway is reduced. This can be seen most clearly in the two maps by the change from yellow to green on Georgetown Pike between Spring Hill Road and Swings Mill Road. Next. The team also evaluated travel time reliability for I-495 general purpose lanes and the 495 express lanes prior to and after Maryland's project being in place. This table shows the travel time comparisons in the northbound direction between Route 123 and Clara Barton Parkway, a segment within the project limit that experiences extensive period of congestion regularly under existing conditions. Comparisons are shown for both AM and PM peak hours. The first row of numbers on the chart shows that prior to Maryland's project, the travel time savings on the northbound 495 express lanes are projected to range from 5 to 24 minutes, However, there would be a projected increase of 4 to 6 minutes in travel times in the I-495 general purpose lanes prior to the Maryland's project being completed. With Maryland's project in place, shown as the second and third rows numbers of the chart, travel time savings ranging from 3 to 18 minutes are projected for both the I-495 general purpose and I-495 express lanes. This table shows the travel time comparisons in the southbound direction from Clara Barton Parkway to Route 123. Prior to Maryland's project, the travel time savings on the southbound express lanes are projected to range from 1 to 2 minutes, and there would be no difference in travel time for the general purpose lanes. With Maryland's project in place, travel time savings are projected for both the I-495 general purpose and 495 express lanes, ranging from 1 to 8 minutes. The results of a safety analysis performed as a component of the traffic study indicate that the project improvements would reduce crashes by 20% in 2045. New direct access ramps to the I-495 express lanes at the Dollar Store Road and at the George Washington Memorial Parkway would eliminate the need for drivers to cross four lanes of traffic in order to access the express lane entrances and exit points. Additionally, the proposed project includes design features that would improve safety, including longer acceleration and deceleration lanes, new auxiliary lanes, and widened and permanent use of shoulders. PDOT is following federal and state policies for evaluating noise impacts associated with the project. Sensitive noise receptors were identified along the corridor, such as churches, recreational areas, and outside residential activity areas, and noise measurements were taken at sample locations. The noise data collected, along with terrain, was modeled, and noise impacts, including any properties within the 66 decibel range closest to the highway, and the properties anticipated to experience a noise increase as a result of the project, were identified. Then noise mitigation measures, or noise barriers, were inserted into the model to determine their effectiveness at reducing noise. All of this is captured in a preliminary noise study. The study shows the preliminary locations where noise walls are warranted and have been determined to be reasonable and feasible. As the project advances, a final noise abatement design report will be produced. Owners and renters of all properties that would benefit from potential new noise barriers will be identified in the detailed report, which will be available on our project website. The results of our preliminary noise study indicate that 3 of the existing noise walls may be lengthened. Some examples, shown in blue lines on these figures, are near the Live Oak Drive overpass and the George Washington Memorial Parkway interchange. One potential new wall was identified along Live Oak Drive in the vicinity of the George Washington Memorial Parkway interchange. Properties along the corridor that are protected by a noise wall today will have a noise wall in the future. Our team has developed a preliminary design of the proposed improvements. This level of design is more robust than is typical at this stage of a NEPA study and provides a better understanding of the environmental impacts and benefits of the project. Preliminary engineering for 495 next includes the design of highway widening, ramp connections and interchanges, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and replacement of 4 bridges, as well as drainage and stormwater management concepts. As part of these efforts, we have identified preliminary anticipated impacts to adjacent properties and necessary changes to limited access lines, as well as develop an overall cost estimate and a project schedule. As part of the 495 Next project, VDOT has collaborated with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation and the Fairfax County Park Authority to include a shared use path parallel to I-495 and connections across I-495 for bicycles and pedestrians. The proposed shared use path, which is a key element of the countywide trails plan, would be located parallel to I-495 between Louisville Road and Live Oak Drive. Reconstructed bridges over I-495 would include sidewalks and shared use paths to improve bicycle and pedestrian connections. VDOT is coordinating with the Maryland Department of Transportation to provide a future extension connecting the 495 Next shared use path to future bicycle and pedestrian facilities on the American Legion Bridge and to points further north. The existing 495 corridor includes 4 general purpose lanes in each direction, separated by a concrete barrier in the middle, with 10 to 12 foot shoulder southbound and a 6 foot wide right shoulder and a 13.5 foot wide left shoulder northbound. The left shoulder on northbound I-495 is currently used in the peak periods as an additional travel lane. The typical section for the future widening I-495 includes 2 express lanes in each direction with left side shoulders, 4 general purpose lanes in each direction, and wider right side shoulders. Similar to the existing 495 express lanes, the proposed express lanes would be separated from the general purpose lanes with flexible post bollards and a 4 foot buffer area. The existing part-time shoulder lane in the northbound direction would be eliminated and replaced with a full-time shoulder. The shared use path, seen here on the left side of the future typical section, would be located generally parallel to I-495 behind the noise walls. Proposed connections between the 495 express lanes and Dollar Store Road interchange would be delivered in phases, the first focusing on the northbound direction. Phase 1 would provide direct connections from the eastbound Dollar Store Road and the westbound Dulles Connector Road to the northbound 495 express lane. Express lanes ramps and lanes are shown in purple, and general purpose connections and lanes are shown in yellow in this graphic. Future project phases at the Dollar Store Road interchange include several key connections. These connections were part of earlier I-495 studies completed as part of the original I-495 Express Lanes project. They are already included in the regional's long-range transportation plan network. Future phases shown in green and blue are not currently funded with this project. As funds are identified, connections shown in green are planned to be implemented first. These connections include new direct access from the southbound 495 express lanes to the eastbound Dulles Connector Road with connectivity to I-66 inside the Beltway, and new connections to and from the Dulles Airport Access Road for the I-495 general purpose lanes and the I-495 express lanes. Connections shown in blue will be implemented after construction of the connections shown in green by the design year of 2045. These include reconfigure ramps from the I-495 general purpose lanes to the eastbound and westbound Doleso Road and connector road that eliminate the current left side exits. At the George Washington Memorial Parkway interchange, Phase 1 of the I-495 Next project includes new direct connections to and from the south for the proposed 495 express lanes. The project design allows for future connections to and from the north for Maryland's proposed managed lanes. Prior to the opening of the Maryland's project, the 495 project northbound express lanes would merge into the general purpose lanes in the vicinity of the George Washington Memorial Parkway. In the southbound directions, entrance to the express lanes would begin from a single lane on the left side of the general lanes and would then expand to two lanes, similar to the existing I-495 express lane southbound entrance near Lewinsville Road. The current express lanes entrance near Lewinsville Road would be eliminated. VDOT has been coordinating with Fairfax County to assess drainage improvement options within the study corridor and is considering implementing active and/or future stream restoration projects, similar to the one shown on the photo here, as part of the I-495 Next project. Additionally, the 495 Next project includes quality and quantity stormwater management strategies for the overall corridor. These strategies will also help address runoff to Scotts Run.
Okay, thank you, Abby. I'm going to continue with our presentation here in just a moment. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about are the number of agency stakeholder coordination efforts that we've been going through on this project. And I would say throughout our project's development process, we have been coordinating with both local partners in Fairfax County, as well as our regional partners, state agencies, as well as federal agencies. These agencies have participated in regular workshops and briefings, as well as one-on-one coordination meetings. The 495 Next project is planned to be designed and construction in accordance with all of the required agency standards, permit conditions, and regulations where required by the stakeholder agencies. And in just a minute, we're going to put our slide presentation back up, where we will be able to see that list, but I'll just read through some of them. So Fairfax County Department of Transportation, Fairfax County Park Authority, our Federal Highway Administration, Maryland Department of Transportation. We've also worked with our Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, our Council of Governments, the National Park Service, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, and here you see the list here. And so with that, I'll move to the next slide to talk about our project delivery partnership. In January of 2019, Capital Beltway Express, which is a subsidiary of Transurban, they're the current operator of the 495 express lanes. And in January of 2019, VDOT and Transurban entered into a draft framework agreement to work towards amending the current comprehensive agreement to extend the existing 495 express lanes. Under the draft agreement, Transurban, in close coordination with VDOT, is developing preliminary design plans to support the environmental assessment, as well as additional independent studies to support the project's design. VDOT reviews and approves this work as it is developed. After the required environmental regulatory approvals for the 495 Next project are received, Transurban would then submit a binding proposal to VDOT to finalize the design and to construct the project with no public funding from the Commonwealth. Transurban would then operate and maintain the 495 express lanes extension, just as they operate and maintain the existing system out there today. VDOT will continue to be responsible for regulatory approvals, for project oversight, and for agency coordination. On the next slide, you see a chart with our key milestones on the top and then a kind of a bar depiction of those on the bottom from end to end. The public hearing is an important milestone in the project schedule. As part of the public hearing process, VDOT is seeking public input on the 495 Next project's design and environmental assessment. Once the formal public comment period closes on October 23rd, VDOT and Federal Highway Administration will review and respond to comments from the public and agencies. Once these comments and responses are complete, the Federal Highway Administration would then consider their decision on the project's final outcome of the environmental assessment. This decision is expected in early 2021. VDOT will then work with Transurban to execute a formal contract for building and delivering the project. Should all of those approvals fall into place, as we are showing, VDOT anticipates that construction of the 495 Next project, both final design and construction, would start in late 2021, with the 495 express lanes open to traffic by the end of 2024. In addition, Abby's mentioned, and we've had kind of this theme throughout the project, through our presentation tonight, VDOT's project is being developed as a standalone project that will tie into future improvements at the American Legion Bridge. VDOT is continuing to coordinate with Maryland to ensure that the two operationally independent projects are compatible and to optimize capacity improvements at the American Legion Bridge. The Capital Beltway Accord, as announced by Virginia's Governor Northam and Maryland's Governor Hogan in November of 2019, is an agreement between Virginia and Maryland that provides a path forward to funding and implementing improvements between the GW Memorial Parkway in Virginia and River Road in Maryland. This graphic shows a potential configuration of the George Washington Memorial Parkway with new interchange ramps connecting proposed managed lanes on the American Legion Bridge and the Parkway. Maryland and Virginia are continuing to work together to refine this preliminary design concept. Another study that's being done outside of our project is a regional transit study. This new regional transit study is underway to assess transit needs along the I-495 corridor in Virginia and Maryland. It's being performed jointly by the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation and the Maryland Transit Administration, and is being conducted in parallel to the current studies and design efforts that are underway as part of our project for 495 Next. Results of this transit study are anticipated later in 2020. And with that, we've concluded our presentation, and I'm going to turn the mic back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Susan and Abby. Now we are going to begin the public comment portion of our hearing. I wanted to go over a few important announcements before we kick that off. First off, all the comments received tonight will be included in the project's public record. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes if you're speaking as an individual and 5 minutes if you're speaking for a group. A reminder that all attendees should remain muted until it is your turn to provide your comment, and that's to minimize background noise. We are going to begin with pre-registered speakers, and I will call your name down the list, and when I do so, I will ask you to unmute yourself so that you can state your comment. Following the pre-registered speakers, we will open it up to others who want to provide formal comments. And if time allows, we will open it up to questions and answers. Next slide. Once we've gone through our list of pre-registered speakers and we open up the comment to others, you can provide your comments using the chat feature on WebEx. If you're using the chat function, once it's turned on, we ask that you write in your name, stating that you would like to provide your comment. And then once we get to your name, we'll call on you and ask you to unmute yourself. We will be turning the chat function on and off in intervals during this time so that we can be sure to keep up with the comments and keep the process manageable. One thing to note is when the chat function is on, all participants will be able to see all messages. We ask that you only write in your formal comments. The chat function should not be used for any type of commentary or discussion during the hearing. Next slide. If you've joined us this evening by phone and you want to provide your comment, you would need to press *3 to raise your hand and to be added to the queue to state your comment. We will announce when it is your turn to say your comment, and we will unmute your phone line. You will hear your line has been unmuted, after which you will be able to state your comment. Once you have spoken, please press *3 again to lower your hand. You will be muted again at this time to avoid echo and feedback due to the number of participants. Before we get started with our comment period, I did want to recognize two other people that joined us this evening. Senator Favola, thank you for joining us this evening. And Tom Basad, thank you, Senator. And I believe Tom Basadny has also joined us this evening. Tom is Director of Transportation for Fairfax County.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start down the list. As I mentioned, you have 3 minutes if you're speaking as an individual, 5 if you're representing a group. I'll give you a warning when we're about 30 seconds prior to your time running out. When I do call on your name, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, and I would ask that you please repeat your name slowly and clearly so that we can make sure that it is transcribed correctly. The first person this evening to share their comment is Morgan Butler. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Butler, and I am speaking for the Southern Environmental Law Center tonight, where I'm a senior attorney. The Southern Environmental Law Center works throughout Virginia to promote transportation and land use decisions that strengthen communities, protect our natural resources, and improve our quality of life. Thank you for this chance to comment on the environmental assessment. We submitted written comments on the document back in May and wanted to take this opportunity to flag some of our main questions and concerns. Our first point tonight is one that we first raised in the NEPA scoping letter we submitted over 2 years ago, and that is the need for the environmental assessment to evaluate more than just a single build alternative. NEPA requires that a range of reasonable alternatives be considered. Data in the traffic analysis conducted for this project suggests that alternatives that include only one or even no southbound express lanes along a portion of the project corridor could reasonably meet many of the project's goals. Taking a hard look at some scaled-back alternatives is even more important now in light of the travel changes that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought about, some of which could result in less peak period driving in the region over the long term. Our second point is another one we have raised repeatedly. This project should include significant funding for improving and expanding transit in the area. Yes, transit vehicles would be able to travel in the express lanes, but Virginia must do much more to advance transit with this project, both to help counter its potential to increase vehicle miles traveled and to address some of the equity concerns it raises regarding access to the express lanes. In short, we repeat our request that as part of this project, Virginia includes substantial financial support for establishing express bus service along I-495 and for providing connections between key population centers in the corridor. Third, we remain skeptical of the environmental assessment's conclusions that this project would reduce vehicle miles traveled and, by extension, greenhouse gas emissions when compared to the no-build alternative. Increasing highway capacity routinely results in increases in vehicles miles traveled because that additional capacity induces more driving, and it's far from clear why this project would be any different. We therefore ask you to point to the modeling data and to provide additional explanation to support the conclusions that this project would reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. Finally, we wish just to re-emphasize for decision makers some important findings from the portion of the traffic study that was commented on tonight that looked at what happens if this project is built without managed lanes going in on Maryland's side of the Beltway. It found that the resulting bottleneck at the American Legion Bridge would actually make peak period travel times on the general purpose lanes worse in both directions, and considerably so in the northbound direction. In light of the serious challenges facing Maryland's managed lanes project, Virginia's decision makers need to make certain that we don't prematurely commit to building express lanes that could make things worse for people who can't afford to use them. Thank you again for this chance to provide comments.
Thank you, Morgan. Okay, up next are Craig and Susan Tenney. If you'd go ahead and unmute yourself. And please repeat your name. Craig and Susan Tenney. Okay, we will come back to the Tenneys. Okay. Are you there? Okay, I'm going to call.
Michelle's having a little technical issue here. The next speaker up on our list is Andrew Churchill, followed by Patrick Lynch. Andrew Churchill, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself, please. And you'll hear Andrew Churchill, Patrick Lynch as our next two.
Perhaps you should repeat how to unmute yourself if you are using a phone.
To unmute yourself, simply hit *3 if you're using the phone.
Our instructions were to use *6.
Yes. Hi, this is Michelle. Is that the Tenneys? Okay. Karen, this is Michelle. Can you hear me? Testing.
I can hear you well, thank you.
Okay, Andrew Churchill. Do we have anyone on the phone? Andrew Churchill. Patrick Lynch. Patrick Lynch. Okay, Stephen Swift. Alice Zhou, Z-H-O-U. Alice. Jeffrey Parnes. Jeffrey Parnes. Okay, Niki Chopra, C-H-O-P-R-A.
Hi, this is Niki Chopra.
Okay, Niki, go ahead with your comment, please.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that's been done on this. However, as a citizen and a taxpayer, we haven't heard any details since May of last year. And it seems like things are moving forward very quickly at this point, but in the days of COVID and this transition to everything online, as we can see in this meeting, there's a lot of technical difficulties, and I think that the citizens and taxpayers really need more time to understand in detail all the effects that are going to happen to their properties and their homes. we're going to be affected greatly, our properties and our homes. We already are affected greatly by the noise and the air pollution. I mean, we just have to walk outside and we can hear all the noise from 495. And I really, wish that there was no traffic, but, if I had to choose between dealing with traffic versus, impacting so many people's homes and properties, I would pick just a little bit more traffic. But we're also, in these days where our work has changed, our jobs have changed. More people are online now, and that should be considered too. And the impact of being online and remote work versus the way things were. And we are amongst the highest taxpayers in the state. And I just really feel like it seems like there's sorry for being dramatic here, but like a bomb's being dropped on us. And it is really going to impact our neighborhoods. And I think more citizens need to have the opportunity to comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mickey. We appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, I want to go over a quick refresher in case anyone is having issues. If I call your name and you are online with us, please go ahead and unmute yourself so you can state your comment. And you should see the mute button at the bottom of your screen. You just click on it to unmute yourself when you're talking. If you've joined by phone and it's your turn, you need to press *3 to raise your hand. And then we will be able to see your number and we will unmute your phone line. You'll hear over the phone that your phone line has been unmuted so that you can say your comment, and then you'll press *3 again to lower your hand. If you're having technical difficulty, please call 703-691-6715. We have someone standing by that will take your call and let us know your name and the best way to get in touch with you. Okay, we're going to continue on with our comments, and I'm going to call on David Werman, Wuehrmann.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm David Wehrman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm David Wehrman, and I'm chair of the McLean Citizens Association Transportation Committee. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the MCA. The MCA, and particularly the Transportation Committee, has been following this initiative since it was first proposed, and two committees, the Transportation Committee and the Environment, Parks, and Recreation Committee, began considering the environmental documents since they were issued last February. These efforts culminated in a resolution that was passed by the MCA board on a 25-7 vote with one abstention at the board's September 2nd meeting. That resolution has already been submitted to VDOT for the record, and it represents the position of the MCA in this matter. I don't intend to elaborate on that resolution, but mainly to summarize it for this public hearing. The resolution supports 495 Next, largely for the reason that the MCA has long been concerned about traffic backups on the Beltway leading to the American Legion Bridge, especially as they have caused cut-through traffic and congestion in McLean neighborhoods as motorists have tried to access the Beltway at Georgetown Pike to avoid Beltway congestion. The MCA has also long understood that no long-term solution to this problem is likely until the American Legion Bridge is rebuilt to increase capacity. Over the last several years, the MCA has made numerous attempts to call attention to this problem, including in previous resolutions issued in 2011 and 2016. While we are aware that 495 Next does not address reconstruction or addition of capacity at the American Legion Bridge as such, any such improvements of the American Legion Bridge, such as is contemplated in Maryland's managed lane study, would be of limited value if the adjacent portions of I-495 were not similarly improved. I-495 as far north as the Dulles Toll Road now contains hot lanes, and Maryland's proposal for the American Legion Bridge and adjacent Maryland portions of I-495 would also include managed toll lanes. Failure to improve the approximately 3-mile section of I-495 at issue here would leave a gap between the other sections of I-495 that have been or will have been expanded, causing a choke point that would leave the overall situation unimproved. This is the primary basis for the MCA's support of 495 Next, although we recognize that VDOT has identified other benefits that would occur even before Maryland acts on its own proposal. The relevant MCA committees spent considerable time analyzing the environmental consequences of this proposed action, as is reflected in the resolution. The MCA's support is conditioned on VDOT addressing a number of environmental issues and taking appropriate measures, including providing residents with advance notice of construction activities that could impact public and private property, mitigating the loss of 118 acres of trees through a tree survey and implementing and monitoring a replanting program, minimizing the project's footprint on Scotts Run Nature Preserve at the GW Parkway, undertaking a resource inventory along the Potomac Heritage Trail, using already paved areas for temporary construction easements, using native species in mitigation, providing the public with a landscaping plan and the opportunity to comment on that plan, conducting surveys of the natural resources and diverse ecology within Scotts Run Nature Preserve, making a cash contribution to the Fairfax County Parks Authority for removal of invasive plants in the preserve, and adopting and implementing a comprehensive stormwater management plan. We intend to remain in contact with VDOT to monitor how these measures are being implemented. In considering all of this, the MCA has been aware that we are in unusual times because of the coronavirus. The resolution urges VDOT to consider carefully the financial impacts and uncertainties related to increased use of telework and reduced commuting traffic patterns resulting from the pandemic prior to signing a contract for the project or beginning any construction-related activities. That concludes my comments. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, David. Okay, I'm going to just state the names of our next 3 speakers so that you can prepare. We're going to call up Jason Stanford, followed by Douglas Stewart, and then Marilee Pierce. Jason Stanford, you are next. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Jason Stanford, and I am the president of the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance. For more than 30 years, the Alliance has been the visionary leader for regional transportation solutions in Northern Virginia that improve our economic prosperity and quality of life. Backed by regional thought leaders, we are focused on building a 21st century transportation network in Northern Virginia and the greater Washington region. On behalf of the Alliance's members and board of directors, I'm here today to express our strong support for the I-495 Next project. This project is critical to Northern Virginia's transportation future. In addition to expanding travel capacity, creating new travel options, and relieving congestion at one of the area's worst bottlenecks, it's an essential component of an integrated express lanes network, one of the area's top long-range transportation priorities. The Transportation Planning Board, the planner for our region, did a performance analysis of the regional express lanes network and concluded that congestion-managed lanes provide the greatest increase in regional transportation network reliability. The TPB then endorsed inclusion of the express lanes network in the region's long-range transportation plan, Visualize 2045. Furthermore, Virginia and Maryland have recently made great strides in regional collaboration, including the Capital Beltway Accord, which was announced last year and will ultimately work to fix and expand the American Legion Bridge. This is one of the region's worst bottlenecks, and the 495 Next project is a critical first step to addressing it. And while some might try to sow seeds of doubt about the reliability of Maryland to hold up its end of the bargain, I believe that these concerns are unfounded. In fact, political leaders on both sides of the river have agreed that fixing the American Legion Bridge is a top priority, and Montgomery County's own alternative plan to the 495-270 managed lane study includes expansion of the American Legion Bridge. The fact of the matter is that expanding the region's hot lanes network helps all modes of transportation in the 495 corridor. In addition to dramatically reducing congestion and delays for both managed lanes and general purpose lane users, hot lanes incentivize more carpooling and transit ridership by dramatically increasing the reliability of both modes for free. To maximize this advantage, VDOT and MDOT are already studying bus rapid transit improvements using these new lanes. Additionally, the project's 3-mile shared use path will connect to local trails and greatly enhance bicycle and pedestrian travel. At a time when our region is struggling to cope with the economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, this 100% privately funded project will create thousands of new jobs and inject hundreds of millions of dollars into our economy. Now is the time to move forward with this regionally significant project that will benefit our transportation network, economy, and community for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next up is Douglas Stewart.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Stewart. I'm speaking tonight for the Virginia Sierra Club. We believe there are better alternatives that have not been assessed that will increase travel choices, more effectively relieve congestion, and reduce environmental impacts and greenhouse gas emissions. This project that's proposed is a continuation of one of the first public-private partnerships in the southern segment of 495. And we've learned a lot since then, and Virginia has learned a lot from its experiences with public-private partnerships and negotiated some pretty effective deals on 66, 395 that include funding for transit. And this proposed project has no funding for enhanced transit. It doesn't increase travel choices. It's oriented towards single occupancy vehicle travel, and it's not a good deal for the state. Any agreement with a concessionaire must include funds for enhanced transit. It should also include reservation of right-of-way for dedicated bus or rail transit, which is called for in Fairfax County's comprehensive plan for Tysons. We're talking here about a 50 to 75-year concession that will give up that right-of-way and give up prospects for enhanced transit, while Fairfax's own comprehensive plan for Tysons calls for dedicated transit to Maryland by the full build-out of Tysons, which is supposed to happen around 2050. We're giving away our future for a private project that's not going to provide travel benefits and that's going to increase greenhouse gas emissions by increasing vehicle miles traveled. We're disappointed that other alternatives weren't studied, and we think that it's imprudent to go forward with a project that's adding more than 80 feet to the right-of-way that's going to impact over 100 acres of forests, almost 3 miles of streams, without clear mitigation plans from the concessionaire for those impacts, and impacts that could be minimized by taking less right-of-way and by having dedicated plans for good transit that's going to get to Maryland. These are contrary to what Fairfax County's policy initiatives are calling for in the community-wide climate and energy action plan, which calls for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The analysis saying that this will reduce vehicle miles traveled in the environmental assessment, as a previous speaker observed is highly suspect and contrary to both lived experience and the scientific scholarship about induced demand, and that adding travel lanes on highways increase vehicle miles traveled. This is bending the curve upward in greenhouse gas emissions, contrary to Fairfax's plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And it's also contrary to Fairfax's focus in One Fairfax on more equitable access to economic opportunities, both for residents and commuters. Commuters coming to Tyson's who are powering Tyson's economy are not going to be able to get to Tyson's more easily through these added capacity for single occupancy vehicles. We need transit to be part of the solution, and this project fails to provide it. It also fails to evaluate how travel patterns have changed in the wake of COVID-19, and those are likely to be long-term changes. Therefore, we urge that you re-examine the project, go back to the drawing board, and look at other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Marilee Pierce, followed by Susan Bonney, and then Glenn Yunkin. Marilee, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I want to thank VDOT staff for the impressive amount of work that went into the environmental assessment. I read all 407 pages and the opportunity to appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. 3 minutes are very brief, so I will be submitting detailed comments to VDOT in writing within the allowed comment period. We need solutions for the congested Beltway corridor from Route 267 to the American Legion Bridge. With that said, I am opposing the I-495 next project and the continuation of the 2005 contract with a private partner for the following reasons. The first is the privatization of our public roads is fundamentally wrong for the Commonwealth, period. The public uses our roads and the public has traditionally paid for those roads. The P3 tolling model used by private partners for revenue to repay bond debt seems to be flawed, and there are other reasons. The second, VDOT and the private partner need to be more transparent with the P3 financial agreements. The 2020 EA makes note of the process to balance the P3 project with a publicly funded one before it is approved, and then does not provide access to that important report. A week ago, the Maryland General Assembly members urged MDOT to reject the P3 agreement for the Maryland 495 I-270 Express Lane project. Without the Maryland component, the I-495 next project will not work as a continuing or a standalone project, and we will need other alternatives and new numbers. Fourth, as part of the public presentation in 2003 by one of the prospective private partners for the I-495 hot lanes, one of the promises made was, and I quote, "Hot lanes do not preclude rail transit in the Beltway corridor. The project is compatible with future transit alternatives, including rail and BRT." VDOT has only one build alternative, despite EPA criticism asking for a robust explanation. The Capital Beltway Corridor Rail Feasibility Study was initiated in 2000, 20 years ago, and I have a copy of that study, when VDOT was considering widening the Beltway, and alignments were analyzed for heavy rail, light rail, monorail, and BRT. There was strong support for rail on the Beltway at the time. The proposed rail alignments were rejected because of right-of-way and other issues in favor of the hot lanes proposal. Fairfax County, the state, and the federal government have invested $10 billion in the Silver Line through Tyson's and through Dulles Airport and beyond. A replacement for the Woodrow Wilson Bridge was completed in 2009 at a cost of $2.3 billion, with lanes reserved for future or rail transit. Maryland representatives support consideration of a rail alignment on the American Legion Bridge and cite the reserved space on the Wilson Bridge. VDOT needs to provide a rail alignment as a build alternative for the public to evaluate as part of this project today, because circumstances have changed in the last 20 years. Rail connecting Maryland with Tyson's Corner and the Silver Line could move more commuters efficiently in the future adding to the value of infrastructure in which significant investments have already been made. Thanks very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Marilee. Okay, our next commenter is Susan Bonney, who I believe has joined us by phone. So Susan, we're going to go ahead and unmute you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Go ahead. Thank you.
And thank you for this opportunity. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, Susan, we can hear you. Please repeat your name.
My name is Susan Bonney, B-O-N-N-E-Y, and thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate that my Senator Barbara Favola and my County Supervisor John Faust are attending and listening, because I'm a local resident near the 495 interchange at Churchill Road. I understand and experience the congestion issues, but I do not understand how this could be the best solution. This proposed project is adding more than 80 feet of roadway, but it's roadway that'll be used mainly by single occupancy vehicles. And the project will also remove more than 100 acres of forest and trees and directly affects Scotts Run, which this neighborhood has worked for years and emphasized the importance of Scotts Run and protected it from this type of project. This project is not providing improved transit solutions, and it's not going to solve our traffic problems. We've presented that one of the project goals is to add new travel choices, but without addressing adding transit in this project, this project's not going to increase. It's going to increase pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, and it's not going to make it any easier for people who can't afford high cost of owning a car and want to work in Tyson's Corner and in nearby areas in order to get there. That concludes my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Before we go to the next speaker, we were just asked the question of how, somebody asked, how do I submit my comment through the chat function? We're using the chat function this evening to let us know that you'd like to make a comment. So if you didn't sign up in advance, you can type in your name and that you'd like to make your comment. We have other ways that are in place where you can submit a written comment that'll be reviewed and added to the public record. And I'll go over those methods with you before we conclude this evening. Okay, our next three speakers are Glenn Youngkin, followed by Clayton Medford and Paige Prezak. I'm going to call on Glenn Youngkin first, please. Glenn Youngkin.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Glenn Youngkin, and I'm a manager at the Trinity Group, LLC, which owns the property located 850 Balls Hill Road in McLean. Most people will know that sits right at the corner of Georgetown Pike and 495. We are thinking about renaming our property the 495 Express Lane Northern Extension Island, as we are going to be impacted on 100% of our perimeter between movements of sound barriers, replacements of bridges, and the establishment of new regional trails. I would ask that the design committee reevaluate first the zigzagging of the regional trail from the west side of 495, moving it to the east side of 495, simply to accommodate spacing along the west side corridor, and yet to actually have to take from us incremental property along Balls Hill Road in order to make the 7 to 12 foot wide trail as called for. I think second of all, when a piece of property like 850 Balls Hill Road, which is the home to Holy Trinity Church, is impacted in this way, I do hope that everyone recognizes the substantial interruption of operations, the substantial incremental cost that we're going to incur associated with going back and re-legislating an existing zoning accord that allows us to operate, and along with a parking lot reduction that demands certain operating and shielding, and on top of that, the substantial diminution of value that our property will experience. All in, while I'm very much supportive of the overall project in order to address the tremendous traffic challenges at this particular 495 interchange at Georgetown Pike, what's happening to 850 Balls Hill Road as a result of really pouring the entire project in the perimeter of our property does seem a bit unfair. And so I would ask the design team to please take one more look at what you're doing to our church property in advance of finalizing any plans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Clayton Medford.
Hi, I'm Clayton Medford, Vice President of Government Relations at the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. We represent 700 members with over 500,000 employees in the region, and we are strongly in support of the 495 Next project. We're committed to ensuring that our region remains the best place to start and grow a business. And key to that, and in order to maintain our position as a top destination, we must continue to invest in developing a 21st century transportation network aimed at improving our mobility. That 21st century transportation network requires both public sector investments as well as leveraging private sector investment and innovation. That's why we strongly support this project. Just as important as the economic activity this project will generate directly, it will reduce congestion in the region and provide new travel choices that will help make Tyson's and McLean area more attractive to new businesses and help the existing businesses flourish. 495 Next, as you've heard tonight, is also a critical step to getting the American Legion Bridge project completed. That bridge project is the most critical transportation project in the region, and unlocking the economic potential is what would be led to with the bridge project and 495 Next. And finally, I understand the concern that has been raised some tonight that the COVID-related reduction in traffic means this project and others like it can wait. We strongly disagree with this assertion. First, we've seen traffic and transit use increase as restrictions were lifted earlier this summer. Second, it is true we do not know exactly what the impact of the teleworking will be during COVID or after COVID. However, it's the same uncertainty that we've faced since March. There has been no study or survey conducted that shows any significant permanence of the widespread adoption of teleworking and staggered arrivals and departures that are happening now. Third, our area will continue to grow as the economic recovery continues, particularly when you consider the job stability provided by our proximity to the federal government, high-quality infrastructure, and in particular broadband, and world-class public K-12 and higher education institutions. Finally, as you all know, waiting only makes this project more expensive and more necessary. We don't want to be here in 2024 wishing we had started the project now. Now's the time for 495 Next. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Okay, I'm now going to call on the next three speakers in the order in which we'll hear from them. Paige Przyslek will be next, P-R-Z-Y-L-E-K, followed by Deborah Butler, followed by April Georgilis. Paige, go ahead. Okay, we'll come back. Deborah Butler, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, Deborah Butler, she may have joined by phone. Can we?
Hello.
Okay, Deborah.
Yes, thank you for unmuting me.
Okay.
My name is Deborah Butler, and I am the founder of 495 Matters. And it is a group of approximately 285 citizens here in McLean, recently formed. and getting great momentum. And we are extremely disturbed about this project proceeding. There are several reasons why we are, and we will submit all of these formally in a position paper to Secretary Valentine. As well, I would also like to take the moment to call out Barbara Favola, Delegate Kathleen Murphy, Senator Barbara Favola, for their really earnest work over the last week and hearing our pleads and listening to us. So we thank you very much for that, and sorry for email bombing your inboxes. But aside from that, this is really a great problem for the area. First of all, in light of the Maryland General Assembly and how they have band together, 69 of them have come and written this sharp rebuke and calling out Virginia in its lack of transparency with regard to what's happening on the bridge and the rail. We have set many VDOT meetings where VDOT has said, I have been on the MCA Transportation Board, I have been on the MCA Environmental Board. We have sat in many meetings where VDOT has said that they are proceeding ahead to force Maryland. So it's like trying to take a state hostage. We have to ensure that we do not build before Maryland. They are working it out, and we should wait to work it out. The project going forward has severe issues. Number one, the P3, the original P3 on this was sent, and this project was actually designated not appropriate for a P3 partnership. The Commonwealth of Virginia found that the citizens of Virginia would be better served if this was a project that was handled by the state of Virginia. Trying to solicit documents that show an update to that, to say why it is now better to do it as a P3, have been buried. This is a significant problem, particularly in light of COVID and the downgrade of Transurban's debt ratings. There have been people who have come forth who have indicated that part of this is about kicking the financial debt of certain parts of VDOT getting ahead of their skis and Transurban getting ahead of their skis to cover this money. So we have a real problem in understanding, is there fraud? Is this good for Virginia citizens? What are the hidden costs? To say that there are no costs to Virginia citizens is really quite reckless. We know that there are in storm mitigation, in vegetation, in the wolf walls, in the sound walls, in the money that has gone to study the EA versus the EIS. So there's a lot around this money issue that makes us very concerned. Secondly, the traffic issue. This is being told that it has independent utility, but if you look at the boards of the scope of the project, you can see that it stops at 267. So the causes of traffic here are the feeds on the shoulder lane, 267, and the bridge. Creating flyover ramps and access to GWP, which was not a problem before, minor traffic, not a huge problem. Creating that, all this false infrastructure, it's still, I had a meeting with VDOT on Friday, and the Dulles interchange at Jones Branch is not even considered. There is not a plan to go forward with that. This doesn't solve our traffic problems. And yes, we have COVID, and I'm sure this gentleman before me has a really great crystal ball, but we should take a pause. We should look at the traffic under current conditions. We should reevaluate the P3, and we should not cover up for the debt financing of Transurban. We're killing our communities. We are killing our children of the future. For 2087, their ability to make changes, to decide what they want in their traffic, what do they want their community to look like? Do they want a Springfield interchange? I'm sorry I'm so passionate, but I'm imploring our leaders to try and take a pause and sort through this. There are many smart people involved on VDOT's side, on citizens' side. And the final thing that is most upsetting is that this is a public hearing, and this is the legal motion that sets forth the contractual beginning. This is the motion that allows the contract to go forward. and we do not have the answers. We don't have the tests. We don't have the choke point studies. We don't have water mitigation, stormwater mitigation. There's concern about the air. I even called the air people in Washington, D.C. Let me see if I can pull up the email. The woman
30
said-
seconds, Deborah.
Okay, how many seconds have I spoken?
More than 5 minutes.
You've gone over 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I've made my point. Now's not the time. We need to pause, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Deborah.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to go back to Paige Prislak, who was before Deborah. She has joined us by phone. Paige, we're going to go ahead and unmute your line.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please repeat your name.
Hi, my name is Paige Prislak, and I'm a concerned citizen of Virginia calling in, and I do not support the 495 next build alternative. We must not proceed before Maryland. The environmental assessment requires that the project impacts to adjacent communities be evaluated, not just a national park. A visual impact assessment of the flyover ramps should be completed, especially since every tree within the temporary construction easement will be removed. In many areas, there will be no more screening between the ramps and roadway and residents. Additionally, stormwater management for this project has the potential to threaten the current water quality standards. If the extent of the construction and right-of-way impacts are presently not known, how can this be properly evaluated? Purchasing credits from the Northern Virginia Stream Mitigation Bank in Reston is not acceptable to mitigate impacts to streams, the Potomac River, forest land, the viewshed parkland, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige. Next up is April Georgelis, who I believe has joined us by phone. April, we're going to go ahead and unmute your line.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. I am April Georgelis. I oppose 495 Next Extension Project. I oppose this unfair, inappropriate sham hearing. The tax-paying public has been denied public meetings, public identification, and explanation of major plan changes since May 20th, 2019. Susan Shaw said Monday, September 28th, that this October 5th hearing is the same as the one postponed on March 12th. Yes, both are rushed, inappropriate, way too early sham hearings. Yes, there still have been no promised public meetings since May 20th, 2019 to update public on plan design changes. One public meeting is not enough. There were 600 meetings for 66 extension. Yes, there were many unanswered questions before March 12th. There are the same questions and more questions now that are unanswered by VDOT. Yes, public comment texts since May 20th, 2019 are still not published on VDOT project site as promised for public review. VDOT wants to do future summaries. I oppose this further lack of public text transparency. Yes, there are many plan changes since May 20th, 2019 that are still not clearly public revealed, listed, and explained by engineers to the tax-paying public in 495 Next impacted regions. Requested meetings before March 12th did not occur. Plan elevations for the GW and Live Oak area that I requested repeatedly for elevations for 3 new flyover ramps, 4 new hot lanes, new raised access ramp from Maryland to 193, new raised bridge to Live Oak Drive, the moving of Live Oak, tree removal, have never been forthcoming. Required EA visualized impact analysis was denied to resident requests before March 12th hearing and after. A resident was told October 2nd, Friday, by Susan Shaw and Abby Lerner that these extensive required community visualized impact analysis have not been done. Historic Langley Club with 1,000 members requested a VDOT meeting before the March 12th sham hearing. It was denied and still has not occurred as far as members know. Historic Langley Club on Live Oak will be devastated, ruined by 495 Next. Why the rush to a sham hearing and the sham project? 495 Next shows no benefits and public benefits. VDOT has not demonstrated the project is in the public interest, or if there is a purpose and need. Utility is not demonstrated. Phase 1 will be 193 to GW Parkway area. Dulles to 193 is to be delayed for phase 2 if it ever happens. Maryland has no plans for a bridge, and there is a major pushback by many Maryland groups and legislators to not proceed at all. There is no utility. There is an island of 495 next, created increased general lane traffic congestion north to bottleneck choke point at GW area. Hot lanes to nowhere, except to increase congestion for 495, local streets, McLean CBC, corridors for 123, Old Dominion 193, Tysons and Region. EA studies are inadequate and missing. Choke point studies do not include choke point traffic impacts for all the before listed areas. Supervisor Faust told BOS that the traffic congestion will be worse, and this is not the right time for the project. There will be meetings, many meetings. Where are the promised and requested meetings? Is one public meeting since May 20th, 2019 really enough? Is it fair and transparent? No. The taxpaying public has been ignored, excluded, and denied transparency and proper public process with this sham, inappropriate, way too early hearing. Taxpayers are being sacrificed for Transurban. VDOT has this rushed, inappropriate hearing without public input. Check that box, and Transurban can sign the contract. This is wrong. I oppose this inappropriate sham hearing at 495 next. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Okay, our next three speakers, I'll call them in the order that we'll call on them. Carrie Wonak, Mimi Venners, and David Sherman. Calling on Carrie Wonak, W-O-N-A-C-K. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Mimi Venners, V-E-N-N-E-R-S.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can. Please repeat your name before you start your comment. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Mimi Venners, and I don't have any prepared statements. I've been very intently listening to this meeting, and I am a resident of McLean, and I guess a couple of things. I have several family members that are professional lobbyists, and what struck me tonight is I'd like to know where all of you live. Do you live in McLean? Does Abby Lerner live in McLean? Does Jason Stanford live in McLean? I'm a McLean resident. I'm also a real estate broker. I sell in Virginia, DC, and Maryland. I do the commute to downtown DC every single day, and I've been living in this area. I see the traffic and the impact that happened with the congestion and bottleneck at the American Legion Bridge when we did the original hot lanes. So I guess my questions are, kind of as somebody who has not read all of the studies, and I'm not a lobbyist. I mean, Jason, you were very supportive of this. I mean, are you a transportation lobbyist? Are you being paid? Who conducted the studies that were done for the VDOT? I mean, this is a 100% privately funded is what I've been told. I'd like to go back and refer to slides 16, 17, and 18 that Abby Lerner put up. If I read those correctly, one of them stated there was no difference in commute time if Maryland does not build. So the question that I have, it doesn't make sense to me. Why are we pushing this through? Do all of you live in McLean? Have you experienced the daily congestion? Who's on the payroll? Who's being supported by Transurban? Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mimi.
So how do we get the answers to the questions before this? It seems to us, or me, my husband is David Sherman, so he doesn't need to go next, and maybe I'll take his 3 minutes. We don't understand how this is getting pushed through this quickly. So we'd like the answers to those questions. Is that something that VDOT and the committee are agreeable to?
So this is Susan Shaw, and I would just say, I think, our goal tonight is to allow people who wanted to comment publicly to go through those first. And so we can certainly circle back when we complete the receiving the comments from people to answer any questions.
Well, these are public comments. This is a public hearing. I'd like the answers. So we're posing questions, but we're not getting any responses. And I'm not, again, I have no prepared questions. These are just from what I'm experiencing in this meeting. So I would assume that everybody would like the answers.
Well, I would just say that for the people that are doing the study, which myself and Abby Lerner, we're employees of the state, and so we're not paid privately by anyone. We also report to there's other agencies that oversee all of our data and results that we've presented here tonight. I think Abby has gone through those slides. We also had 2 nights of question and answer sessions last week, where we spent 4 hours with the public answering questions. And we've gone through our traffic data. And what we are showing is there is a benefit to the project. And those slides that Abby went through for both the 2025 with and without Maryland. And of course, our 2045 scenarios certainly show there are project benefits, and those would include Maryland, since Maryland has been included by the entire region, or Maryland's project of 2 managed lanes on the Capital Beltway is already included in the Constrained Long Range Plan, which is a regional transportation plan. So with that, I think we'll move to our next commenter, and certainly we can come back for questions if we have time at the end.
Yeah, and Susan, this is Rob. This is Rob Carey. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of VDOT, and Secretary Valentine, Secretary of Transportation in Virginia, asked me to join the meeting tonight. And I do just want to say that, really, there's been tremendously thoughtful comments tonight, and I very much appreciate it on all sides. We will take the comments. We'll certainly have a question and answer session at the end of this, but we also, this is not the end of it. We will take those comments and, we will look at those. And when there are questions like these, like Susan answered, we want to loop back with the people and talk with them about their concerns and questions. So I just want to make it clear that this is not a finite process, that at the end of tonight, that's the end of any interaction. We certainly want to make sure that that we are there, available. I would encourage you, if you haven't spoken directly with Susan, if you'd rather talk with me, the secretary, I just want to assure you, the secretary is very pointedly told me that, she says, look, I want you to go. I want you to be at the meeting tonight. I want you to go on Thursday. I want you to represent me there, report back on where we are on those issues. And, I can tell you, the secretary is very, very sensitive to the community. VDOT, I tell our employees every day that we are about quality of life. We've heard that in several comments here tonight. And quality of life in all respects. There's 8.5 million people across Virginia, 2.2 million in Northern Virginia. This project has impacts, no doubt about it. And we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for quality of life in that region. So I just wanted to say that this is, taking these comments it does feel at times like a one-way dialogue. I understand that there will be question and answer at the end, and we'll continue that dialogue after this meeting and on into Thursday and beyond there. So I just thank you for the time, and really thank you very much. As somebody that grew up in Northern Virginia, my daughter lived in Tysons, used to drive to Maryland every day to work, so she experienced that firsthand. I get it, and I certainly want to make sure that you're being heard, and that we are going to take all the comments seriously, and that we're going to loop back, and we want to see what makes the most sense on this. What are the comments? What can we do to make anything that we might do better? So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you very much.
Rob, this is May Benners just finishing up, and Susan, thank you both for those comments. One last thing, my husband and I wanted to point out, and talking about transurban planning and city planning, you know, for those of us who have lived through the hot lane expansion, what happened was we moved the traffic jams from the 66 area right to the bottleneck at American Legion Bridge. And until Maryland agrees to their expansion and the bridge gets expanded, I just feel like this is going to be like the big dig. You know, we're going to do all of this construction and disruption to the McLean Fairfax interchange, and it's going to be at a standstill until the other state does something. So it needs to be coordinated. So thank you for your time, everybody. I appreciate it.
Okay, sorry about that. I was muted. Thank you, Maymay. David Sherman is next on the list. I don't know if, David, you still plan to make a comment, or was that covered with Maymay's comments?
Covered with mine.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm going to call on the next three speakers that we're going to hear from tonight. Paul Butler, followed by Brenda Butler, followed by Omar Malik. And then we still need to go back and get some of the earlier speakers that weren't on but had already reserved a spot to speak. Paul Butler, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to take issue with one statement that was made earlier by Mr. Medford, I believe it was, that said that there aren't any studies that are showing any significant lasting impact on traffic. And I would like everyone on this call to take a look at the most recent study done by the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority entitled COVID-19 Transportation Impacts and Opportunities, and particularly slides 26 through 33, which talk about the various recovery scenarios predicted. These are data-driven studies very recently done. And if I could just read from one of the slides about the new normal scenario observations. All four scenarios assume a 10 to 15% more telework than pre-COVID levels and school attendance levels close to pre-COVID levels. All four scenarios reduce auto and transit trips. Active transportation scenario has the largest impact for auto trips, 46% reduction. Cautious recovery scenarios has the largest impact for transit trips at a 37% reduction, and it goes on. So you can see the best thinking now by the experts on what the impact of COVID is going to be on traffic scenarios. And while, as Deborah said, nobody has a crystal ball on this, I think that argues for caution because we all don't know what the immediate future is going to look like. I mean, I think if you could just you could just go to McKinsey's website and you can see all the thinking that's being done about what the new normal looks like. Secondly, we do have concerns, continued concerns about the lack of transparency in the financial terms of this contract. And we did look back at a newspaper article covering the initial project. And it says the contract between Virginia and Transurban requires the state to pay subsidies if the numbers of carpoolers reaches at least 24% of the total flow of all vehicles that are going in the same direction for the first 30 consecutive minutes during any day, during which average traffic for the toll lanes going 3,200 vehicles per hour. Now that's a mouthful. But later on in the article, VDOT Representative Charlie Kilpatrick says, is there a backstop? The answer to that is yes. Do we think we'll get there? The answer to that is no. And if we do, we still think it's a success. So there has been an acknowledgement to the press that there are some financial guarantees made to Transurban. And so the notion that there are, quote unquote, no subsidies in the contract, we're concerned and misleading. We're not accusing anyone of anything. We just don't have the facts and the information. And we know now that the hot lanes have a track record, right? We've seen we've got a couple of years of studies to see whether these have been financially viable options, and we haven't seen any studies or any information telling us about how financially successful the hot lanes project has been up to the American Legion Bridge. So those are two areas where we'd like more information. We think this project needs to be reevaluated in light of COVID, and we'd like more transparency on the financial terms of the contract with Transurban, and specifically whether there are any obligated funds from the Commonwealth of Virginia, either now or into the future, if Transurban doesn't make enough money on these lanes. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Now I'm calling on Brenna Butler. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, and please repeat your name at the start of your comment. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brenna. I'm a resident here and a founder of Virginia Parks Matters, and I'm speaking on behalf of the young citizens of McLean that represent the future. I know myself and many of my friends who signed petitions and went to previous hearings are very concerned about this project and the future of McLean. Obviously, I respect all the adults in this area, and the validity of their experience and points and opinions isn't lost on me. It's just hard for me to sit here and discuss the future of Northern Virginia when the ones making this decision may not live here when the project is going on or finished. Although I'm as enraged as everybody that has spoken before me, I wanted to kind of appeal to your sense of humanity. The people in this area moved here to raise their children and have a safe place to walk their dogs, and they moved here because they appreciate the beauty and the importance of nature. My family actually moved here from Brooklyn because they wanted to get away from the dirty, congested traffic city. My parents wanted to have a place for us to walk their dogs and a place for me to ride my bike without having to be worried about getting hit by a car. It's just, McLean is becoming an area where people are not going to want to bring their families. And it's going to become an area that right now people are here because they feel like they can catch their breath. And it's going to be an area where you can't do that. Last night, my family and I actually were sat outside on our front porch, and we were just listening to the sound of the trees and the birds. And it was at night, and you could briefly hear the traffic of 495. We live about 0.3 miles away, and quiet for us is ambulance sirens and honking faint in the background. But we were just sitting there and enjoying the sounds, and we started hearing owls. We've seen owls and foxes and bats and deers and rabbits. So many things that make this place amazing and unique to live. And I just don't think that we should be the ones responsible for taking that joy away from the families and the residents that live in this area. And I know people have spoken previously on crystal balls and mentioning the future. And obviously I don't have a crystal ball, none of us do, but when these things happen time and time again, outcomes can be predicted. And we can see what's going to happen is you're going to spend millions and millions, if not billions of dollars trying to force this solution on people that aren't educated enough on the topic. And that's because most of this has been kept in the dark. These residents don't know. People around here don't know, and they want to ask questions and they want answers. And you guys are going to profit, you're going to cut your losses, and you get to leave at the end of the day, leaving the residents on the side of the highway. And people are going to leave. No one wants to live on the side of a highway. No one wants to worry about flyovers and noise pollution affecting their everyday life. People are going to flee this area before it catches on fire, just like the West Coast. And when they leave, nobody's going to be left on the highways. No one's going to be paying the ridiculously expensive tolls. No one's going to want to take responsibility for all the destruction that's been caused. And what's going to happen when it's too late to realize that that destruction outweighs any pro of getting home faster? There used to be this big
Brenna, your 3 minutes you've reached.
Okay, I'm actually speaking on behalf of a group.
Okay, you have 2 more minutes then. Thank you.
Thank you. There's this big clock. I don't know if any of my environmental conscious friends know about this, but there used to be this big clock in Manhattan. And it used to just say the time of day. It was a beautiful piece of art. And now it's counting down until the damage left on our climate is irreversible. And that clock now reads 7 years, 87 days, 11 hours, and 28 minutes. And in 7 years and 87 days, are we going to be the ones responsible for this destruction? I personally don't want to be, and I want to be able to say that I did all I could for the planet that's literally counting on us. And I'm not trying to diminish the issue of traffic in this area. Traffic is definitely an issue that needs to be solved, but we can't rush the solution. And I don't understand how this project is serving VDOT's main purpose of quality of life, because quality of life is not living on the side of a highway. We can't prioritize the wrong things. Money doesn't matter more than people, and a road doesn't matter more than a forest. And one official's voice doesn't matter more than 1,000 voices it's supposed to represent. And I think that this project is not serving its purpose, it's not serving the citizens, and it's not serving the greater good. Thank you for letting me comment on this. I really appreciate it. And I do appreciate all the work that's been done. I just think there is more work that needs to be done.
Thank you, Brenna.
Thank you.
Okay, our next commenter is Mr. Omar Malik. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and repeat your name.
Hi, my name is Omar Malik. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So, hey, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I do not support the 495 next build alternative. I actually can see the flyovers from my house. I can hear them. Seeing them is a big statement. I can see them when I step out in the courtyard, and I can then see 495 if I walk a few steps. So I do not support this project at all. There's, as previous speakers have spoken, Mimi Weiners, she actually helped me with a condo in DC once. There is a lot of lack of transparency on financial terms of the project. Also, it seems like after spending all this effort and development, we're going to gain 5 minutes. That is, if Maryland builds the same hot lane on the other line, seems ridiculous. And Maryland is not going to fund anything that does not include light rails, the best of my knowledge. I remember reading that, and I think a previous speaker spoke to it. So unless the purpose of this project is to have a hot lane going from GW Parkway, which itself is not a hot lane, it's for single-use cars, it seems ridiculous that Virginia will spend all this money, disrupt the neighborhood, disrupt the quality of life of everyone who lives across these 3 miles, and build hot lanes just going to GW Parkway. It makes absolute no sense. The only reason you would consider this is bureaucratic inertia. I can't think of any other reasons you guys would go ahead with this project. It makes absolutely no sense. No common sense, no financial sense. There's no need. The best you will do is gain 5 minutes. And with COVID restrictions, nobody's driving anymore. I have friends who own companies who have openly told me most of their staff, and this is a guy who owns a company in Bethesda. He has 400 employees. All of them are going to work remote forever now. They will only come into the office when they need to, for HR purposes, maybe social get-together. I'm a government contractor myself, also a commercial contractor, and my works for the foreseeable future is working from home. Most of the people who live in McLean area in these neighborhoods are either infotech or have to do something with government. They're all working from home. So we see no value in this. Who's taking the GW Parkway onto these hot lanes? Who's going to be doing this 5 years from now when this project finishes? There's no crystal ball. This project makes absolutely no sense. I'm not blaming everyone. I'm not saying there's fraud, there's corruption, but I do know about bureaucratic inertia. And it would be really sad if you guys go ahead with this just because of bureaucratic inertia. Thank you. I give my time to someone else.
Thank you, Amir. We're going to go back up to Carrie Womack, W-O-M-A-C-K or W-O-N-A-C-K. I think she has joined us by phone. We're going to go ahead and unmute your line. Okay. Carrie Womack.
The last one.
I'm sorry. Carrie, can you speak up? Are you on? Can you hear us? Or can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, is this Carrie?
Hi.
Carrie?
Yes, we
Hi.
had some technical difficulties over here.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad we got you. Please go ahead and state your name for the record and then your comment, okay?
Okay. I am Carrie Womack. I've been a resident for 20 plus years in McLean, and I am vehemently opposed to the 495 next build alternative. The hot lane expansion proposal would extend the current hot lanes all the way to the American Legion Bridge, as we all know, but Maryland is currently in a fight over the bridge as well as the Beltway beyond it. So they're still in an extensive study phase and are at best years from implementation, if that is even the course that they decide to take. These 4 lanes will have to merge back in at the bridge, causing more gridlock. It does not make sense for Virginia to build ahead of Maryland. And VDOT showed Fairfax County officials data and concluded that Virginia and the bridge had enough capacity that the backup was a result of the Maryland side. So 495 north of the Beltway and 270 cannot handle the volume. And VDOT Supervisor Susan Shaw and County Supervisor Faust stated the ultimate solution is with Maryland. The proposed new lanes and flyover ramps in Virginia are moving the problem, not solving the problem. So that is the main deal. And also, on another note, I was driving out of my cul-de-sac yesterday, and I saw this huge spotted owl flying from branch to branch and then to a deck of our neighbor's house. And VDOT has claimed that there are no nesting species in this area, and that's absolutely false. We have nesting spotted owls, and just recently, as September 3rd, the Wall Street Journal did an article on how they are a threatened species, and so that is concerning as well. We also have bald eagles that fly over our neighborhood on, maybe every other day basis. And so that is a concern, and I'm concerned that VDOT has claimed that there are no nesting species in this area because that's completely false. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we're going to go back to speakers that had signed up in advance that we didn't hear from earlier. We're going to go ahead and go back through those names. Craig and Susan Tenney, Tenney. If you're on, please unmute yourself. Okay, Andrew Churchill. Patrick Lynch. Okay, Stephen Swift. Stephen Swift. Alice Zhou, Zhou. Jeffrey Parnes, Parnes. Okay, we have individuals that would like to speak that have signed up through our chat box. The chat box is open. If you want to make a comment, please go ahead and type in your name and state that you'd like to make your comment. If you're running into any issues getting through to us, if for some reason you're on the phone and you're trying to make your comment, and we're not seeing your hand on our end, please call our technical support number at 703-691-6715. That way we can make sure you're called upon this evening. Okay, the next 3 individuals I'm going to ask to go ahead and provide your comments. Kathleen Nawaz, Nawaz, followed by Bridget O'Toole, followed by Sean Newman. We're going to call on Kathleen Nawaz first, which is by phone, correct?
Actually, I am through the internet. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are, loud and clear. Please go ahead and state your name and your comment. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Kathleen Nawaz, and I live off of Balls Hill Road in McLean, have been here since 1989. And I have a comment and a question. My comment is that I, with many others on the call, do not support but oppose this extension for several reasons. For me, the ones that are most important are that coming from a background of energy analysis as well as a period of time in transportation, I do think that reducing vehicle miles traveled is I don't see the analysis really supporting that. Oftentimes what happens when you increase the capacity of a road, you just, as someone else mentioned, you just have a situation of induced demand. So I think that's what would happen here. We, of course, then do have the COVID situation, and we do, I think that at a minimum, we don't understand what that is, how that's going to impact it. I also I looked through the analysis and I didn't see anything to say that the cut through traffic in my neighborhood would be addressed by this. So that's something not good. The other thing is that I looked through all of the comments from the May 2019 hearing, and many of them the majority were not supportive for lots of reasons. And I think the issue with respect to acting without being in complete coordination with Maryland and at the same timing of them is problematic. But I just want to conclude by saying that my question, which is I would really like to better understand where the transparency is in this process. I mean, I think it's great to have these public hearings. I think it's appropriate and obviously legally required to have these meetings. But my question is, how are the inputs that you receive in these meetings reflected in the decision-making process from a very kind of explicit standpoint? And because, as I say, I think transparency is really important in understanding how the processes is made. It seems when I'm looking over the documents and hearing some of these presentations, it seems like a fait accompli that the decision has been made and it's going through the motions of this. I think that would be, in fact, very unfortunate. So I'd like to understand better how the public's, I think, excellent questions, specifically with respect to running the analysis again, coming up with different scenarios other than just the one, how that will be reflected in the decision-making process. And that would be it. I want to thank you very much. I also want to thank Senator Favola and Delegate Kathleen Murphy, both of whom are my representatives, and I appreciate them and you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathleen. We're going to go ahead and go to Bridget O'Toole now. Bridget, if you could please unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, this is Bridget O'Toole. Thank you. I had a comment in that just from the beginning, this has felt very rushed, and I've been concerned about not looking at other alternatives. And one of the things that, I guess a side benefit of COVID is that it really has changed traffic patterns, at least for the foreseeable future, and given us now the opportunity to look at all types of other alternatives, rail, different crossing locations, other designs, and that I think now we have the benefit and the opportunity and the time to look at these other alternatives. And I'm asking that you do that, and that if you choose not to and to move forward, I'm asking that for you guys to then provide assurances that if you do move forward with TransUnion, with Transurban, sorry, that you will that you'll provide assurances that you're not going to renegotiate any financing or any prior contracts if you decide to move forward with them now. Because there doesn't seem to be a good reason to move forward with this right now unless it's to renegotiate something that currently exists.
Thank you, Bridget. Sean Newman, Newman, you can go ahead.
About to speak on a public meeting, honey. So give me I'm about to speak on a public meeting.
Sean, you're unmuted.
Just one moment, please. Sorry. Hi, my name is Sean Newman. I am a board member with FAB, but I am speaking on behalf of my, FAB is the Fairfax Alliance for Better Bicycling, but I am speaking on behalf of myself tonight. I personally do not support this project as currently proposed. I believe, like previous speakers have noted, that it does not include sufficient transit. It focuses far too much on increasing level of service for single occupancy vehicles without adequately meeting the Virginia State Transportation Demand Management requirement, as was levied by the legislature this year and signed by the governor. This project will not manage transportation. This will simply increase the number of vehicles that will travel on this, and as previous callers have also mentioned, it will increase the total vehicle miles traveled for our area. That said, if the project does go through as currently envisioned, I fully support the bike lane, the shared use path that is intended to be built outside of the sound wall. Additionally, we would say that the path must be grade separated. It must include upgraded traffic signals at the Georgetown Pike intersection, because those intersections are very potentially dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists using the trail. The trail crossings at Georgetown Pike and Old Dominion Drive need adequate signage to alert motorists, along with adequate areas clear of foliage and other obstacles that might limit sight distance for approaching drivers. As the previous the previous plans that I have seen, the crossings at the Georgetown Pike intersections look especially dangerous because that is where the trail moves from one side to the other. And trail users are expected to cross high-speed ramp on and off ramps. Additionally, adequate wayfinding signage must be included to get riders and pedestrians from the 495 shared use path to Lewinsville Road and into Tyson's to connect to existing and planned trails. This would be absolutely necessary because in order for people to connect with Tyson's from the 495 shared use path, they would have to thoroughly understand how to get there on side roads, i.e. the Lewinsville Road. Thank you very much. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, the next three speakers that are up are Sharon Gamble, Paul Kohlenberger, and Maureen O'Donnell. Calling on Sharon Gamble, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please
go
ahead and repeat your name. Thank you.
My name is Sharon Gamble. I am a resident of McLean. I grew up in McLean. I do not live near the Beltway, but I do frequently commute northbound on 495 to Maryland in the morning. I do not support the 495 next build alternative prior to the Maryland project approval and implementation. I would certainly support it once Maryland has approved it and started implementation. My reason for that is I did read every page of the Traffic and Transportation Technical Report, and I especially focused on Appendix I, which provided the analysis of conditions prior to the Maryland project. Based on the key indicators I saw, which I didn't focus on the easy lane or the fast lanes because it's not really a good path for us to get to the bridge. The key indicators to me showed that traffic in the general purpose lanes, especially in the morning northbound rush hour, will get worse until the Maryland project is implemented. In addition, the already lengthy rush hour, which according to the report is 4 hours in the morning and 6 hours in the evening, will become longer prior to the Maryland project. I am in favor of this project after the Maryland project has been approved and Maryland has confirmed where the bridge will be located and funding and has a scheduled date for the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, the next speaker is Paul Kohlenberger.
Good evening. My name is Paul Kohlenberger, and I serve as president of the Greater McLean Chamber of Commerce. I'm joining you this evening to convey that the Greater McLean Chamber of Commerce strongly supports the 495 Next project to extend the 495 express lanes to the George Washington Memorial Parkway. The 495 Next project supports the Chamber's mission to strengthen the economic environment of the Greater McLean community. It does so in the short run by directly creating jobs, but much more importantly, in the long run, by providing new travel choices and improving safety on our local streets as well as on the Beltway itself. The improved transportation infrastructure will help retain and attract area employment opportunities and support commercial, cultural, and civic activity in the McLean Community Business Center and the Tysons Urban Center. Additionally, the project offers the opportunity to provide bus rapid transit to and from Maryland destinations. The 495 Next project will serve the interests of the Greater McLean residential community. This is of great interest to the Chamber, which since 1961 has prided itself on supporting the community. It is also of great personal interest to me as someone who has lived here in McLean since 1985. The improved transportation infrastructure provides local travelers with additional time-saving choices. The project offers additional shared use trails to area residents. Perhaps most importantly, the project improves safety on our local streets. Our neighborhoods in McLean flanking the Beltway have for years been plagued by traffic that is trying to reach the Beltway and get across the American Legion Bridge. 495 Next is projected to offer marked reductions in cut-through traffic, improving safety for our community and reducing travel delays on our streets. The project will improve the quality of life for thousands of McLean residents. A final point, as a proud Virginian, when Maryland is proposing to do the right thing, then we feel the only gentlemanly thing to do is to meet them halfway. Thank you for considering the stance of the Greater McLean Chamber of Commerce. The 495 Next project is important to the economic and civic future of the Greater McLean area and Fairfax County. The Commonwealth should move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to announce the next three speakers. We're going to go to Maureen. Please mute your lines. Thank you. Please mute. We're going to go to Maureen O'Donnell, and then we're going to go to Flint Webb, and then Dot Harney. Maureen?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Maureen O'Donnell. I strongly oppose this 495 extension. It's reckless in the light of climate change to go forward with transportation plans that focus on single-use fossil fuel-powered vehicles. We know that roads are heat sinks. We know that cars are heat sinks. We know that single occupancy vehicles increase greenhouse gases. And we know that widening roads doesn't, in the long run, improve congestion. We also know that trees and green spaces mitigate climate change. This is one of the highest educated communities in the country, and yet we plow forward with the same types of projects that contribute to scarring our land, destroying trees, destroying habitat, reducing green space, and increasing climate change. I am a resident of McLean. Although my property is not directly impacted by the project, this seems to be the type of project that will destroy quality of life and property values for people who live along that corridor. And I care about those people. I see along 66, the widening of 66 and what has happened to personal property with the road going straight up into people's backyards where they used to have a backyard. And I just wonder how the government, how can politicians allow that to happen to their constituents? We are at a point that we need to consider that we have and we are living in a new normal. Climate change and COVID are showing us the new normal. We need to wake up to this. And I believe government needs to have the discipline to lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to Flint Webb next.
Hi, my name is Flint Webb. I'm the Environment Chair for the Fairfax County Federation of Citizens Association and for the Providence District Council. But my comments today are my own. I live in Vienna, Virginia. I'd like to point out the two basic issues. One is that I don't think it's sufficient sufficient retention to just look at the additional impervious surfaces caused by the project, especially when you look at the impacts of climate change, which is going to be increasing the storm intensity, duration, frequencies. And then my other comment is that there's no, you haven't addressed the issue of hazardous air pollutants. And I point out that I recognize that most of the time NEPA doesn't evaluate hazardous air pollutants, but there is the Urban HAPS program under EPA, Clean Air Act Section 112C3, which does require some analysis of hazardous air pollutants. And I think you need to include that in your analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our next three speakers are Dot Harney, followed by Joyce Harris, followed by VJ Doddy, D-O-D-D-I. I'm going to go ahead and call on Dot Harney to go first.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead and restate your name.
Hi, my name is Dot Harney. I am a resident of McLean, a community citizen, and most important, I'm a taxpayer and a voter, which should be important to everybody. I do not support the 495 next build alternative. We must not proceed before Maryland. The environmental assessment requires that the project impacts to adjacent communities be evaluated, not just a national park. A visual impact assessment of the flyover ramps should be completed, especially since every tree within the temporary construction easement will be removed. In many areas, there will be no screening between the ramps and roadway and residences. Additionally, there is little to no stormwater mitigation, and this stormwater flows into the Chesapeake watershed. The stormwater management for this project has the potential to threaten the current water quality standards. If the extent of the construction and right-of-way impacts are presently not known, how can this be properly evaluated? Purchasing credits from the Northern Virginia Stream Mitigation Bank in Reston is not acceptable to mitigate impacts to streams, the Potomac River, forested land, the viewshed parkland, and the community. I am also a big fan of the spotted owls that we see in our parks. And I don't believe the people who say there are no nested animals. I see owls, I see squirrels, I see the eagles, and I just think you need to save our parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. Okay, I'm calling, we have three more speakers signed up to speak. If you could go ahead and mute your lines if you're not talking. Thank you. We are approaching 9:30, so we're going to go ahead and close our chat box. We have three remaining speakers that are signed up and nobody waiting on the phone as far as we can tell. If we're mistaken, please send us a quick note or call our technical number to let us know, 703-691-6715. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and hear our three speakers, and then we're going to go ahead and do some closing announcements for tonight. So Joyce, if you could go ahead and get started, and please be sure to state your name. And I'm asking everyone, if you're not speaking, to please mute your lines because we are hearing a little bit of feedback. We want to make sure we can hear our speakers. Thank you.
My name is Joyce Harris, and I've been a resident of McLean for 36 years. There may be benefits to this project, but there are also losses. I am primarily concerned about the loss of plant life if this project moves forward. More than 3 acres of Scotts Run Nature Preserve, the jewel of McLean, will be impacted temporarily or permanently. According to the preserve's website, the preserve is one of the county's most diverse natural landscapes and one of the rarest biological ecosystems in the mid-Atlantic. This is a significant potential loss. Another loss. 118 acres of trees may be removed. Think of it, 118 acres. Will 118 acres of trees be replaced? I urge VDOT to carefully and generously mitigate these losses by working closely in partnership with the community and the agencies and groups involved in overseeing these landscapes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Calling on VJ Doddy, D-O-D-D-I, to go ahead.
Hello, my name is Vijay Dodi. Thank you for the opportunity today for the comment. Most of my comments are covered by other participants, so I'm going to cover the ones that are not. I second the option that the analysis that was done was inadequate, primarily to the reason that all the numbers shown by VDOT regarding the assessment of travel times, improvements of the travel times, were done prior to the pandemic period. Given the onset of the pandemic that we have, I strongly believe that those numbers are invalid. And then also I want to bring it to the notice of the participants that the residents of McLean primarily are the people who use the pathways that lead into 495, either Georgetown Pike, 123, Old Dominion. And we are also impacted with not only the travel times, but also our properties are impacted. For example, the design flaws that we see, that the bike trail is outside the noise barrier wall. So there is no separation. So basically the bike trails are running through our properties, which would be invasion to our privacy and our homes. So I strongly oppose this particular project in the current fashion. And I also think that we thought Maryland onboarded, we in spending all this money and spending all this, causing all this loss would be a great loss to citizens' utility and the public property at the cost of privatizing with the public liability. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We had another speaker sign up right before we closed the chat. So we have 2 speakers remaining, Christy West, followed by Eric Farnsworth. Christy, if you would go ahead with your comment. Christy West, please go ahead and unmute yourself and restate your name and go ahead. Okay, wait. Christy, if you are calling in by phone, please press *3 to raise your hand so that we can identify which number you are and unmute you. Okay, you are on the phone. We're going to go ahead and unmute you. Please go ahead and state your name and go ahead with your comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Christy West. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I would like to say that I strongly oppose the 495 Next project. I am a resident of Live Oak Drive. Our property is impacted by this project. Unlike some of the speakers who spoke in favor of this project earlier tonight, it is my neighborhood and my property that is impacted. We already deal with excessive noise on Live Oak Drive. Our property faces the GW Parkway ramp. We have experienced the surveyors and other workers that have been in the neighborhood marking off places that we were told were not going to be impacted by this project, which obviously are, as they are taking soil samples and doing other preparatory work. I'm also concerned about the effects of the two entities, HTC at 850 Balls Hill Road and also the Langley Club. I do not see how this project is going to alleviate the cut-through traffic in our neighborhoods. The effects of the water runoff that will impact Scotts Run and the delicate ecosystems in that park. Our family has the privilege of enjoying tracking the wildlife and plant life in that park throughout the season. We have been tracking the spotted owls since early spring. We are well aware that there are nesting species, including eagles and other animals and bird life in this area, which is contradictory to your report. We are also disturbed by the lack of transparency that my neighbors have already referenced earlier this evening in the impacts to our neighborhood specifically, and our quality of life and our property value. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and hearing our concerns.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, our last speaker of the night is Eric Farnsworth. And once Eric provides his comments, we have some closing announcements before we conclude. You can go ahead, Eric.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for fitting me in. I know I'm right here under the bell, but I appreciate it. This is Eric Farnsworth. We've lived in McLean for over 20 years on one of the feeder roads that goes to Georgetown Pike. And I'm not an expert on the project, so honestly, I can't say that, I support it or don't support it, but I just wanted to thank all of you for taking this process so seriously. On the feeder roads, we're dying. Once the hot lanes got extended and the interchange with Georgetown Pike and 495 became so congested, it's almost impossible to get out of our own driveways at certain times during the days. And when you're trying to get to, say, Langley High School or across 495 from West McLean to East McLean or vice versa, it's virtually impossible to do so at certain times during the day. And, fortunately, we haven't had problems with emergency services or ambulances or things like this, but some of our elderly neighbors have. And so my main point is simply to say there have been a lot of people this evening who have been talking about delay, who have been talking about let's wait until Maryland gets its act together and then try to merge up somehow. That's great in theory, but the problem is now, and it's getting worse. And so from somebody who's actually affected by it daily, yes, I have environmental concerns. Yes, I support, mitigation for global climate change issues. Yes, I support, wildlife and such things. But at the end of the day, we have to find a solution, and I don't think we can wait until Maryland gets its act together. So I just wanted to thank everybody for taking this process so seriously, and just an encouragement that we really find a way forward to help out for those of us who are living this problem on a daily basis. Thanks very much for listening.
My camera just went down. Oh. Thank you, Eric. Okay, before we get into our closing announcements, I just wanted to open it back up and ask our elected officials, did you want to offer any closing announcements before we conclude tonight? If you do, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Supervisor Font, I mean, I just very much appreciate the really in-depth and thoughtful analysis. Definitely think issues have been laid at the feet of VDOT that need to be addressed. We need a lot of answers. And you know, I look forward to the county itself has raised many issues that VDOT is going to respond to. I know you will, but I think that my understanding was that all the comments tonight would be addressed by VDOT as part of this process. Is that not correct? That is correct, right?
That's correct.
Okay. When can we expect to see that response?
Well,
go ahead, Susan.
Okay, well, just that we do have the comment period remains open until October 23rd, so we're still in the process of gathering comments, and certainly we appreciated all the ones that we received tonight, but, you know, any comments that we receive, you know, we will still be considering, and so after that, then we will go through a process of reviewing the comments, working on responding to them, and during that time period, we'll be reaching out to our partners, certainly at the county and others, to get those answers. So I would expect it would be at least, you know, 30 to 60 days for us to compile and work on responding.
And Supervisor Faust, I'd like to add this, Rob Kerrigan. You know, we're going to go through that process. There have been very thoughtful comments tonight, and they're going to get the due time that they deserve to really thoroughly review those. And so I just want to say that while we have a schedule, the schedule will not dictate the time it takes to do a thorough job on this. So, you know, we're going to definitely be reviewing that in the Secretary's office as well. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that it's going to take a lot of effort to go through these, because there have been very thoughtful comments given.
Okay, I mean, I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for taking the time to sit here. It's very important that VDOT at the highest level, as well as the Department of Transportation, participate and be aware of what the concerns are. And so thank you. And I know Mary Hines sat through this presentation, and she's on the Transportation Board in Richmond. That's the time. Hi, Mary. We really appreciate your focus, because as you heard tonight, there's a lot of issues that would have to be addressed. So, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Delegate Murphy.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone, because this was really such good participation on the part of our community. I'm really impressed with these presentations, and I'd like to just make sure that they get these answers someplace where they can actually read them, because they're gonna take more than a momentary yes or no on most of these answers. And I'd like to thank Secretary Valentine, who I have been speaking with, for her attention to this matter. And I'd like you to take that back to her, please. But I really do, I'm looking forward to seeing these responses, not just in passing, but in fact done thoroughly and in response to the many questions that people had tonight. And thank you, because I thought it was a great presentation or opportunity for people to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Senator Favola, are you still on the line? Okay, Mary Hines, did you want to make any comment? Just wanted to open it up in case you did.
No, thank you, Michelle. I appreciated everybody's time tonight and certainly learned a lot in listening. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, and then Rob, and then Susan, and then I'm going to go ahead and do some quick administrative announcements, and we'll go ahead and conclude. Rob?
Yeah, thank you. And again, I couldn't have said it better than the people that just spoke. I mean, it's tremendous input. That's what this whole process is about. And I do have to say that I really do appreciate it when you know on a broader stage we don't always see the discourse that we need, and this tonight was very, very helpful to us, and it's exactly what we wanted. What we needed is to hear from people about their concerns, their desires, and so forth, and we fully intend to evaluate all of that. We will work to do that internally. We also, you know, we do have a Commonwealth Transportation Board, and I want to thank Ms. Hines for being on this tonight. She does a really yeoman's job on the board, always dedicated, always asks deeply probing questions, and you're very fortunate to have her represent your area. But you can rest assured, Secretary Valentine asked me to you know, get deeply involved in this, report back to her, be her liaison on this, and I intend to do that as best I can. Secretary Valentine is committed to an open, transparent process that results in the best decision, whatever that is. And I just want to say that it's, you know, it is to result in the best decision. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Susan, any closing remarks?
Just the only thing I would note is that I know we did not get to any questions. We saw some as part of the comments and some that were in the chat room, and we'll be looking at those over the next several days to see any that we can provide answers to. We'll do so on our website. We do have a frequently asked questions section there, and we'll continue to add questions and answers as we you know, see them come through, and can add them to that body of knowledge that's out there on our website.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks to all of our officials. Thanks to Susan and Abby for a great presentation, and of course, all of the great comments that we've received. Some closing announcements before we finish up tonight. We do have this Thursday, October 8th, we have an in-person by appointment only public hearing. We will be available between the hours of 4 to 8 p.m. at the McLean. Okay, can you hear me? Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I thought we had a technical glitch. Okay, our in-person public hearing is this Thursday, October 8th, from 4 until 8 p.m. at the McLean Community Center. That's at 1234 Ingleside Avenue, McLean. You must schedule an appointment in advance if you plan to attend this. You can do so by going to our website at 495northernextension.org or calling 703-691-6715. We need to make sure that you have an appointment so that we can make sure that we have only limited number of people there for safety reasons. We will be following CDC recommended health measures. Anyone that is there must have a mask on, and we will be enforcing social distancing. And again, you must have an appointment to attend. Once you're there, we will have our presentation that we provided tonight. We will be showing that on a loop so you can watch that. We will have limited on-site staffing so that we can comply with the COVID restrictions, but we will have our technical resources, subject matter experts available virtually to answer any questions that you might have. We're limiting it to 1 person per time slot or 2 people if you're from the same family. But again, you can get more information on available time slots by going to our website or calling that number. You can provide your comments for the public record if you are there to our court reporter, or you can complete a written comment form and leave it in the comment box, and those comments will be included. Next slide. As has been mentioned tonight, I want to reemphasize that the public comment period is open until October 23rd. Any comments that have been received since we first made materials available on February 26th up and through October 23rd will be included in our formal public record for the project. If you've already...
I think it's important to note the presentation from tonight has been posted on our website. I would just make note of that.
That's right. Presentation's been posted. We'll have the recording of the entire hearing. That will be also posted on our website tomorrow. Wanted to point out that if you have already submitted your comment earlier this past spring, you do not need to resubmit. We've got them and we will include them in the public record. These are the ways that you can provide your comments after the hearing. You can submit or complete an online comment form, which is accessible on our project website at 495northernextension.org. You can send an email to 495northernextension@vdot.virginia.gov. Please reference 495 Express Lanes project in the subject line. You can mail your comment to VDOT's Northern Virginia District Office to the attention of Abby Lerner, the project manager at 4975 Alliance Drive, Fairfax, 22030. You can call that number, 703-691-6715, and provide your comment. It will be transcribed. You can also submit your comment by video, by emailing us that video at the email address I've already mentioned. Next slide. We continue to have all of the information that was provided tonight, as well as the entire environmental assessment and the draft design plans available for public review on our project website. We have hard copies of this information and materials available at the following public locations: VDOT's Northern Virginia District Office, and you need to call in advance if you'd like to come and view the materials. 3 local libraries, Dolly Madison, Great Falls, and Tyson's Pimmet, and the McLean Community Center. Next slide. And that's the last slide. That is the conclusion of our meeting this evening. We thank you all for joining. Have a great evening. Good night.